All right, for any rower who's ever trained at altitude, there's this one question that just bugs you, right? You're up there grinding it out, and you can't help but wonder, how much faster would I actually be at sea level? Well, today we're going to dig into a tool that finally gives you that answer.
You know the feeling, right? It's just so frustrating. You're putting in the work, you feel strong, but the second you get on that erg at a higher elevation, your splits just drop. And you immediately start second-guessing everything. Am I getting weaker? Is this just a mental block? Well, here's the good news. The answer is neither. The best way to think about it is like this. Training at altitude is basically like rowing with a weight vest on. I mean, you're pulling just as hard, maybe even harder, but there's just less oxygen in the air to fuel your muscles. So what we're talking about today is a calculator that shows you exactly how fast you'll be when you finally get to take that vest off. Okay, so before we jump into the solution, we gotta really get a handle on the problem itself. What is actually happening to our bodies that makes those scores suffer so much at higher elevations?
It really all boils down to something called the partial pressure of oxygen. Look, that sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. As you go up, the air gets thinner. There's just less oxygen packed into every single breath you take. And for a rower, our entire sport is built on our aerobic engine, our VO2 max. So if you get less oxygen, you get less fuel. And less fuel means less power. It's that simple. And that, of course, means slower splits.
So just how big of a hit are we talking about here? Well, there's a pretty common rule of thumb in rowing that for every 1,000 feet you go up in elevation, you can expect to lose about 1% of your power. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but it adds up fast and really shows you how significant this whole thing is.
Okay, so that's the problem, but it raises a huge question. How is an athlete supposed to track their real progress if their scores are always being skewed? Well, that is exactly where this Altitude Adjusted Erg Calculator comes into play. It's a tool designed to solve this very problem.
And the best part is, it's super simple to use. You don't need to be a sports scientist or anything. You just plug in 4 key pieces of info. First, your performance. You can put in your split or your watts. Second, your body weight and the distance you rode. Third, your current altitude, obviously. And fourth, and this is a really important one, your acclimatization status.
And boom, this is where the magic happens. Look at this. On the left, you've got your altitude performance, let's say a 7-minute 2K. But check out what the calculator spits out on the right. That same effort is equivalent to a 647.0 at sea level. Your split drops from a 145.0 to a 141.8, and your power jumps from 302 watts all the way to 332. I mean, come on, that is a huge difference. Talk about a confidence boost.
So you're probably wondering, how does it even come up with these numbers? It's not just some random guess, right? Absolutely not. It's all based on real science. And the single most critical piece of the puzzle is how well your body has actually adapted to being at altitude.
This is so important. You have to choose the right status. So if you just flew in for a training camp and you've only been there for a few days, you're non-acclimatized. And trust me, the performance penalty is going to be massive. But if you've been living and training there for, say, more than 2 weeks, your body has already started to adapt. You're acclimatized. The penalty is still there, for sure, but it's much smaller. Getting this right is absolutely key because it completely changes the result. And again, this isn't just some made-up formula. The tool is actually grounded in proven, peer-reviewed research from sports scientists who studied this stuff for years. They developed equations to model this exact effect. So it's basically calculating your altitude performance as a percentage of what you're truly capable of at sea level. It's a credible, science-backed estimate. Okay, so the data is really cool, right? But how do you actually use it? How does it give you a real advantage? Well, this is where you get that aha moment for both rowers and coaches. Let's go back to that example we used in Make It Real. Picture an athlete, they're training in Denver, the mile-high city. They pull a 2K and hit 7.0 flat. It's a solid score, but maybe they're feeling a little down about it, thinking they should be faster. But then they plug that number into the calculator and this is what they see. That bar on the left, that's their power in Denver, 302 watts. But the bar on the right, that's their sea level equivalent, 332 watts. It's just such a perfect visual. It proves the fitness is there, it's just being hidden, masked by that thin air. 30 watts. That one number says everything. For any rower out there, you know that 30 watts is absolutely game-changing. That is a huge amount of power. It's the difference between a decent score and a really, really great score. And it was there the whole time, just hidden by the altitude. So who is this for? Well, pretty much everyone. Coaches can finally normalize test scores and compare athletes training in totally different places. College teams can get a way better idea of how their fall altitude training is going to translate to spring racing back at sea level. Masters athletes? Perfect for adjusting your expectations when you travel for a regatta. And honestly, for any rower who loves data, this is the ultimate tool to finally see your true fitness gains without all that altitude noise getting in the way.
All right, so we get the tool, we see how powerful it is, but how do we use it smartly? Because it's not just about plugging in numbers, it's about actually training with this knowledge in mind.
So here are a few pro tips to keep in mind. First, prioritize cooling. Your body is under more thermal strain at altitude, so you need a good fan. Second, nail your hydration. Seriously, the air is so dry, it just sucks the moisture right out of you. Third, don't be afraid to adjust your workouts. You might need longer rests between intervals to keep the quality high. And finally, watch your heart rate. Don't be surprised if it's higher for the same power output. That's totally normal.
And this is maybe the most important takeaway of all. Please remember, use this as a guide, not as gospel. Everybody responds to altitude a little differently. Your genetics, how much sleep you're getting, your iron levels, it all plays a part. So think of the calculator's result as a powerful motivational tool, a target to shoot for, not some unbreakable promise. When you boil it all down, it comes back to this one core idea. Your fitness doesn't just vanish when you go to altitude. It's still there. It's just being limited by the oxygen available. All that hard work you're putting in, it's building your engine. This calculator, it just helps you see how powerful that engine really is.
So I'll leave you with this question. After all that grinding in the thin air, fighting for every single breath, what are you truly capable of? What's your real potential back at sea level? This tool, it does more than just give you a number. It might just change the way you think about your own performance.